Imagine a bomber so powerful, so far ahead of its time, that the entire Soviet air defense network could not do a single thing to stop it. Not scramble fighters, not fire missiles, not even track it properly on radar. Now imagine that this aircraft was not secret. It was not hidden in some classified black site. It flew in broad daylight over the American desert in front of cameras, and it still left the United States Air Force completely stunned by what it did. That aircraft was the XB-70 Valkyrie, 196 feet long. 6 engines, roaring in unison. A top speed of Mach 3.1, that's over 2,000 miles per hour, approaching the speed of some of the fastest rifle bullets ever fired. And faster than anything the Soviets could put in the air to chase it. And here is the part that makes this story truly extraordinary. The engineers said it could not sustain that speed without tearing itself apart. A top general declared the entire program was already dead before it ever flew. They were both wrong. Stay right here, because this story only gets more remarkable from this point forward. Welcome to Aviation History Hub. And before we go any further, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now and ring the bell. We cover the greatest aircraft stories in history, the kind of stories that never grow old. It costs you nothing, and you will never miss a video like this one. Now let us go back to where this all began. The year is 1955. The Cold War is not some distant threat. It is alive, it is urgent, and every American city feels it. The United States Air Force needs a new strategic bomber, and not just any bomber. They need something that no Soviet interceptor on the planet can come close to touching. The requirement they set down was almost extraordinary in its ambition. The aircraft had to cruise between Mach 3 and Mach 3.2. It had to fly above 70,000 feet, higher than most missiles could even reach. It had to cover more than 10,000 miles without refueling anywhere near Soviet territory. And somehow, it had to fit inside the same hangars already being used by the B-52. Two of America's greatest aerospace companies accepted the challenge. Boeing came in with a conventional swept-wing design, solid and capable. Then North American Aviation walked in with something that looked like it came straight from the year 2050. A massive delta-wing canard aircraft with 6 engines, buried side by side inside the fuselage belly, and wingtips that could actually fold downward mid. That last part is not a typo. The wingtips folded down on purpose, and the reason why is one of the most brilliant engineering ideas in all of aviation history. In December 1957, the contract went to North American. The B-70 Valkyrie was born. Now here is the part that almost nobody talks about when they discuss the Valkyrie. And it is the part that makes this aircraft truly unlike anything ever built before or since. At Mach 3, the shockwaves generated beneath the Valkyrie's massive delta wings became so powerful that the aircraft could literally ride them, like a surfer catching a wave. Engineers called this compression lift. The faster the aircraft flew, the more efficiently it moved through the air. It was a plane that performed better the faster it went. No other bomber in history has ever used this principle at this scale. The folding wingtips existed for exactly this reason, to trap those shockwaves and extract maximum lift from them. This was not just clever engineering. This was a completely new way of thinking about what an aircraft could be. And the men who designed it did it with drafting tables and slide rules. No advanced computers, no digital simulations, just brilliant minds and the determination to solve problems that had never been solved before. This video is created for historical and educational purposes only. All information is based on publicly available records, declassified documents, and verified aviation history sources. Aviation History Hub does not glorify conflict. We honor the engineers, test pilots, and service members whose courage and sacrifice shaped the world we live in today. Building the XB-70 was not just an engineering challenge. It was a battle against the laws of physics, and physics does not negotiate. At Mach 3, air friction heats the aircraft's skin to nearly 900 degrees Fahrenheit. That is hot enough to melt aluminum, the material used in almost every other aircraft ever built. So North American's engineers did something that had never been tried at this scale. They built the entire outer skin from brazed stainless steel honeycomb panels. Thin walls on the outside, hollow in the middle, stronger than solid steel but a fraction of the weight. Wherever temperatures climbed even higher, they used titanium. These 6 General Electric YJ93 engines each produced nearly 28,000 pounds of thrust with afterburner. All 6 together gave the Valkyrie a level of raw power that is genuinely difficult to put into words. But power alone was not enough. At full afterburner, those engines burned through fuel so fast that every single mission had to be planned down to the exact minute. The fuel itself was not something you could find off the shelf. Engineers developed a completely custom blend called JP6, made specifically and exclusively for the Valkyrie. But here is the detail that stops people when they hear it for the first time. The fuel was not just fuel. It was also the cooling system. As the aircraft flew at Mach 3, The jet fuel was actively pumped through heat exchangers built into the airframe. It absorbed the heat, burning off the skin, then flowed into the engines and was consumed. The Valkyrie literally cooled itself by burning itself. That is the level of extreme engineering this program demanded at every single step. September 21, 1964. The XB-70 Valkyrie rolls onto the runway at Palmdale, California, for its very first flight. Pilots Al White and Colonel Joe Cotton are strapped in. The 6 engines build to a roar you can feel in your chest from a mile away. The aircraft lifts off, and immediately, something goes wrong. The landing gear refuses to retract. A hydraulic failure on the very first flight. The entire mission has to be completed with the gear hanging down. But the team did not fold. They fixed it. They flew again. And on October 12th, just 3 weeks later, the Valkyrie broke the sound barrier for the first time, reaching Mach 1.1. Then, the pace accelerated. By October 24th, the aircraft had flown supersonic for 40 continuous minutes. By March of 1965, that had stretched to 60 full minutes above Mach 1. The Valkyrie was finding its rhythm. The engineers were starting to believe something they had barely allowed themselves to hope, that this machine was going to do exactly everything they had promised. But the real test, the one that would either prove the Valkyrie was the greatest aircraft America had ever produced or break it apart in the sky, was still ahead. And what happened on October 14, 1965, still makes aviation historians stop and reflect. October 14, 1965. Aircraft number 1 lifts off from Edwards Air Force Base with Al White at the controls. The mission is straightforward on paper. Push past Mach 3 and sustain it. Prove it can be done. What actually unfolded in the sky that day was anything but straightforward. As the Valkyrie crossed the Mach 3 threshold at 70,000 feet, the nose pitched sharply upward. White corrected, then it pitched sharply downward. The aircraft was hunting, oscillating at a speed where 1 degree of movement sent it into a 3,000-foot per minute altitude change. The ground team went completely silent. Al White held on and pushed through. The XB-70 reached Mach 3.02. Then the chase planes caught up, and what they reported made the entire control room go quiet. 2 feet of the left wing's leading edge were gone, burned or broken away by the heat and stress of sustained Mach 3 flight. The honeycomb panels had not held perfectly. The aircraft had broken its own speed record and sustained damage doing it. But it held together. The crew was safe. Aircraft number 1 was limited to Mach 2.5 after that day, and the second prototype took over the high-speed research missions. On April 30, 1966, aircraft number 2 completed the mission everyone had been waiting for, a sustained Mach 3 run lasting over 30 minutes. Every panel, every seal, every wire held on. The maximum recorded speed of the entire XB-70 program was Mach 3.1, at an altitude of over 1 hour and 48 minutes of total Mach 3 flight time across both aircraft, a record that no bomber, from any nation, has ever come close to matching. Drop a comment below right now. Do you think America's test pilots and engineers deserve more recognition for what they accomplished here? June 8, 1966. It should have been a good day. General Electric, the company that built the Valkyrie's engines, had arranged a publicity photo of flight. Aircraft number 2 would fly in tight formation with 4 other jets, an F-4 Phantom, an F-5 Freedom Fighter, a T-38 Talon, and an F-104 Starfighter. A Learjet carrying photographers would capture the whole thing. By 9:30 that morning, the photographs were done. The formation began to break apart. Then, in a single moment, the situation changed completely. NASA test pilot Joe Walker's F-104 drifted too close to the Valkyrie's right wing tip. The downturned wingtips created powerful, invisible vortices, spiraling columns of air strong enough to destabilize a smaller aircraft without warning. The F-104 rolled into the XB-70, shearing off both vertical tail fins and striking the left wing. The F-104 was lost immediately. Joe Walker did not survive. The XB-70 held stable for one brief moment, then entered an unrecoverable spin. Al White managed to activate his escape capsule and survived, though he was seriously injured. Co-pilot Major Carl Cross, flying his very first mission in the Valkyrie, was unable to eject in time. He did not survive either. 2 experienced professionals lost in a single moment. A program already under political pressure hit its most difficult point. The entire sequence was captured on camera, making it one of the most thoroughly documented aviation accidents in history. It stands as a lasting reminder of the dedication and sacrifice of the men who pushed the boundaries of what was possible in the sky. With aircraft number 2 gone and the bomber program officially concluded, the surviving XB-70 was transferred to NASA. And this is where the story takes a turn that almost nobody talks about. Between March 1967 and February 1969, the Valkyrie flew 83 research missions. The data it gathered was not just useful, it was foundational. Everything that came after in high-speed aviation, the B-1 Lancer. Advanced supersonic research, sonic boom behavior, structural heat management at extreme altitude. Was built directly on what the Valkyrie taught the world during those 83 flights. And there is one final impact that rarely gets mentioned. The XB-70 concerned the Soviet Union deeply enough that they accelerated development of their own response. The MiG-25 Foxbat, one of the fastest interceptors ever created, developed specifically to counter a threat that technically no longer existed by the time it flew. The Valkyrie shaped Soviet aviation long after it had been retired. That is the kind of legacy that goes far beyond any single speed record or any single flight. The XB-70 Valkyrie flew for the last time on February 4, 1969. It landed at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, and it has never left. Today it rests at the National Museum of the United States Air Force, 196 feet long, delta wings stretching over 100 feet across, 6 engine inlets side by side beneath the fuselage. When you stand next to it in person, you understand something no photograph can ever fully capture. This was not a prototype that fell short of the vision. This was the vision, completely and fully realized. Built from a written requirement in 1955, pushed past Mach 3 by 1966, with slide rules and drafting tables by men who simply refused to stop when the obstacles piled up around them. The engineers, the test pilots, the ground crews, they did not just build an aircraft. They proved what is possible when people commit fully to a mission and refuse to quit. That is a legacy that never stops flying. The individuals featured in this video, Al White, Carl Cross, and Joe Walker, were extraordinary professionals whose contributions to aviation history deserve our deepest respect. All historical records referenced in this video are drawn from publicly available Air Force and NASA archives. This channel presents their stories with the accuracy and the honor they deserve. If this story meant something to you, if you believe these men and this machine deserve to be remembered, share this video right now with someone who loves aviation history. Hit that like button, drop a comment telling us which part of the Valkyrie's story stayed with you the most, and subscribe to Aviation History Hub so you never miss a story like this. We will see you in the next one.